Well, good afternoon and welcome back to another live iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and today I am joined by Rebecca Diamond. Rebecca has been using WordPress since way back in 2006 and has been providing BackupBuddy support as an iThemes support technician since April of 2018. So coming up on just about a year for Rebecca here with us in the iThemes family. Now, Rebecca also helps provide ongoing WordPress and BackupBuddy education on our iThemes YouTube channel. So, Rebecca, we are really excited to have you here finally on iThemes Training. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Nathan. It's great to be with everybody today. I've been keeping an eye on the chat room as we get started here. And Jean, I know I owe you an answer. So as soon as this webinar is over, I'm going to jump in and help you out with that.
Awesome. So, Rebecca, tell us a little bit about what we're going to be covering in this subject of moving a website with BackupBuddy.
Well, one of the things that we get asked a lot in support is, okay, I've built this website, but I built it on a sandbox and now I need to get it on my actual domain, or I need to move a client's website. I'm going to walk you guys through 3 different ways to go ahead and get that site moved right over, change all the URLs so you don't even have to worry about doing that. BackupBuddy just handles it for you.
It's going to be great. And I personally been using BackupBuddy since it was first released way back in version 1. I'm a huge fan of BackupBuddy myself. I use it in my client work, and I use it in all phases of my development process, from going from local development all the way up to a dev server where the client can take a look at it, and then actually launching the site live to the final resting place on the new URL. So this is an important process. And matter of fact, we have even AJ there in the chat who was saying he's just about to move his first site to a new host and can't wait for this class. That's awesome. Hopefully this will be some good knowledge for everybody. Now, this is the first of 4 BackupBuddy webinars over the next couple of weeks. So if you've not yet registered for the others, I'll drop the links there in the chat in just a minute. We're going to be talking tomorrow about restoring a backup. And then next Tuesday, we'll be talking all about how to leverage BackupBuddy. If you're working with clients, leverage BackupBuddy as part of a WordPress management service that you can monetize in your business. And then on Thursday, Rebecca's going to be back talking about how to get the most out of BackupBuddy Stash and Stash Live. So we have 4 great webinars over the next 2 weeks, all about BackupBuddy, and I'm really excited about it because BackupBuddy is truly one of the key plugins that I rely on myself in my client business. Now, just a few notes of housekeeping for those of you just joining us in GoToWebinar. Make sure you're in the chat room. It's over in iThemes.com/chat, iThemes.com/chat. We do not use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar control panel. So if you're asking questions there, I'm not going to see those. So make sure you ask your questions there at iThemes.com/chat. It's always helpful for me if you preface your question with the word question in all uppercase. That way I'm sure to see it, as the chat room can get a little busy sometimes, but there's always lots of great information going there. Just preface your question with the word question. And also, very importantly, if you ask a question, be sure to watch the chat because I may ask you a follow-up question to make sure we get a good, clear question for Rebecca to answer. And we'll be doing our best to catch those questions in context, so you don't have to wait to the end to ask your questions. Ask them as they occur to you, and if we can fit it in right along with what we're showing at that moment, I'll work those questions right into the presentation today. Otherwise, we'll ask questions that aren't, they're not maybe specifically about what we're looking at right now, or maybe questions we missed earlier. We'll get all those taken care of in the wrap-up Q&A at the end of today's webinar. The slide link, again, I'm going to drop that one more time in the chat room. If you haven't gotten the slide link, make sure you download those. Those are there. And you'll be able to watch a replay of this webinar at the link that I just dropped in the chat now. That'll be live about an hour or so after we conclude today. So I think that wraps up all the housekeeping notes. We have folks from all across the United States and around the world today. Cozumel, UK, Amsterdam, Canada, and a couple of places. Rebecca, you're actually from Canada. Is that right?
Well, I am actually from Louisiana, but I married a Canadian man almost 22 years ago. So I can't quite claim to be Canadian, but it's definitely my adopted country, and I love it.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into moving a website.
Perfect. Okay, here we go. All right, so reasons why you want to move a website. I mean, maybe you have a website, you think that's where it needs to live, but you've changed your web host because you weren't happy where you are, or you need to point it to another URL, or like Nathan mentioned, you're moving a client site from your sandbox to their production domain. BackupBuddy makes that super, super easy. So we're going to walk through it. There's 3 different ways that I want to show you guys today. One is to use the importbuddy.php and the zip file of the backup. Another way is to use importbuddy.php and manually extract that backup in Cpanel. And the third way is using the built-in stash backup to restore it. So as we cover each of these, I'm going to discuss maybe why you'd want to choose one method over the other, and take you through it. Really simple steps. First things first, though. Before you do your site move, you need to license BackupBuddy if you haven't already done so. You need to make sure you're running the most current version of BackupBuddy. You're going to want to download that importbuddy.php file, make your complete backup, and then download the backup or send the backup to stash. So I'm going to walk you through that. On this site, I've got BackupBuddy activated, but it's not yet licensed. Now, this is an outdated version of BackupBuddy. If it's not licensed, I don't really have any way to know that. So we're going to go ahead and license that. And to do that, you're just going to click license, and it'll take you right to the screen where you click the product, enter your iThemes username and password, and license the product. Now, when we do that, we're going to pop right back over here to installed plugins.
Now, Rebecca, before we go much further past that, it's really important that you have BackupBuddy licensed, and tell them why it's important to have the latest version running.
If you've ever sent a ticket into support, you might have gotten a reply that comes back that says something like, go ahead and try licensing and updating to the latest version. That's because BackupBuddy, I want to say more than just about any product I've ever used in the WordPress environment, our development team is always updating and making the plugin better. Maybe there's a popular host that's changed something and the plugin doesn't quite work the way we want it to on it. So we are always pushing out new updates to make the plugin work better. And the only way to find that out is if the plugin is licensed. You can see when we license it, when you go to the plugins, installed plugins menu, it tells you that there's now a new version available. You can click to view the details, or you can go ahead and update. And once you've updated, the next thing you're going to want to do is to download importbuddy.php, because that is the one file that's going to do all of the magic as far as automatically making things work for you. You'll find that under Restore Migrate on the BackupBuddy menu. And to be honest, you can send it to a remote destination. I usually like to look everything over first, so I usually just go ahead and click to download. And you can enter a password for it. Now, this password is not secure. I don't recommend you use that password when you're actually moving a site, but for our purposes today, that's what our password is.
Now, just for those of you following along, that password pop-up window didn't display because GoToWebinar doesn't show those little pop-up windows. But when you click that download import buddy, a little light box, dialog box pops up for you to type the password. So you guys didn't see Rebecca do that, but that's, if you're doing it live, that's what you'll see. There's just no way for us to show that with GoToWebinar.
Yeah, and check your slides, because there is, I tried to grab a screenshot of what that'll look like for you, so you can follow along with that in the handout, but Nathan's right. Sorry, that was a little bit of invisible maneuvering there. Okay, once you've downloaded your importbuddy.php, you'll see backups. We're going to go ahead and take a fresh backup. Just because we've updated the plugin version, we want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date backup possible. So we just go to the backup screen and then click Complete Backup.
And we're working here just on a plain version of WordPress. It's literally just WordPress with BackupBuddy installed. So this will be a small backup, but chances are your site's going to be a lot bigger if you have a lot of things in the media library.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some large sites. I try to keep my own manageable, but I've got one that's about 12 gigs, so it takes a little longer than this to back up for sure. And you'll see that backup moving through the steps. It will check it off as it goes, letting you know that it's backed up the database. It zips the files. It verifies the file integrity to make sure that everything's great with the file. And then it kind of cleans up behind itself and lets you know it's successfully completed.
Now, in this full backup
when
that you
that's all done,
sorry about that. In this full backup you selected, what all are we backing up in this of the site?
We are backing up the database. We're backing up the themes. We're backing up the media library. Everything to do, your plugins, active and inactive plugins. So your pages, your posts, your images, comments, everything that's on the site is going to come down in that complete backup.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are other backup options. So if we were to, there are options just to back up the database itself, just themes, just media. But this in this case, we did the whole site. So it'll be a mirror image of this WordPress site.
Absolutely. Those pinpoint backups we'll discuss some actually on tomorrow's webinar too, where we talk about restoring different components. But as you mentioned, for today, we're just wanting to literally take it from one domain to the other. So we went with a complete backup. And we're going to download that backup file. And then we're going to move over into our control panel for the new site. If you're familiar with Control Panel, you'll know that you have the File Manager. You're going to want to click on File Manager and make sure you're in your public HTML. And you will see that the directory is empty. You're going to want to upload that importbuddy.php file and your backup zip file to this folder. And just give me a minute there.
All right. 1 second. That was my cue to upload the file. Sorry about that. Rebecca is having a bandwidth issue today. And some of you may have noticed a little bit of choppy audio. And that's why. Give me 1 second. I am downloading the zip file and the BackupBuddy file, the ImportBuddy file. 1 second here. And we'll get it uploaded to the correct location. 1 second. Almost there.
Unfortunately, BackupBuddy doesn't come packaged with your own personal Nathan to do this, but
it's really not your own personal Nathan. I just happen to have a really fast internet connection. Okay, so we're there. And Rebecca, by the way, if you want to refresh, you should see the files there now. Pretend like, whoops, well, something looks like it didn't upload. 1 second. So we're just using the cPanel upload. It says it already exists. So let's go back and try that one more time to refresh the file manager. There it is. That was
there
weird.
we go.
There was a great question that was just dropped into the chat room a minute ago by Chris, who wanted to know Does the import buddy file need to be up to date, or can it be an older version of the file? And that's a great question for right here, I think.
Yeah, an older version should still work. I do recommend always going ahead and grabbing a fresh version, because while the file itself doesn't normally change much from update to update, if something has changed in it, you're just going to save yourself some frustration by quickly going ahead and grabbing a fresh one after you update the plugin.
Yeah, great answer.
And if you're like me and you have, 47 copies of it, you can just go ahead and rename it after you upload it to get rid of anything extra. It should just be importbuddy.php in your file manager.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll get a notice if you're running an import buddy. One of the first things it does is check the version of import buddy versus the version of the backup that was taken. And if your backup is more recent than your import buddy, you'll get a warning about that. So, the versions don't have to match, but it's always better if the import buddy version is later than the backup buddy zip version.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's quick and easy to do, so it makes sense to just go ahead and grab a fresh one. And once you have it on your cPanel, sitting on your server,
now just
all you'll need to do...
Real quick, before we do this, the original site, let's go back to that one. The original site, you may notice in the domain name, is wp1.dev, and we've backed up that file, and we've uploaded the files over to mywp.dev. So we're on a completely different domain name now, and we're about to restore the site from the original source now to this totally new domain name.
And to do that, you just type in that new domain name /importbuddy.php. Now, before I go any further with this, I want to take just a moment to point out, you'll see that we already have SSL installed on this domain. If you're moving from a secure environment to another secure environment, you'll want to make sure that SSL is already in place before you go ahead and use importbuddy.php. That keeps all of your URLs clean in the database and make sure everything just moves from secure location to secure location. So once you've done that, we'll just hit enter here. Now, because I've been working on this server earlier today, I don't actually get the queue to authenticate this importbuddy.php. The first time that you use it on the server, you're going to have a chance, and you'll see that in the slides, to enter that password that you had in place, and then just hit the authenticate button, and that will bring you to step 1. Now, for this first one, since we're using the zip file that we've loaded, we'll go ahead and leave that selected. You can see that backup file matches what we have in our file manager. And we want to restore the files in the database. So we'll just click Restore Backup. And you'll see that working across the screen. It'll automatically proceed to step 2, restoring the files. And then it takes you to step 3, the database settings. If you have your database already set up, you can go ahead and enter the settings. If you haven't created a database, we have this handy database wizard. And here is where knowing that you're running SSL is really important. You're going to want to change that to reflect the fact that you're running SSL. And when you change to HTTPS from HTTP, the cPanel address changes from 2082 to 2083. And you just enter a new database name and username. and it will auto-generate a password. You can leave that in place or you can set your own and just click Create Database.
Now, for those of
Now
you who
you
are
can't see this little one.
sorry about that. Now, for those of you who are used to going in and manually setting up a database using the Cpanel database wizard, this saves you a step. You can do that right here from within Import Buddy if you didn't know that. This is one of the little features that a lot of folks who've been using BackupBuddy for a while may not have even known exists.
Exactly. And you won't be able to see this little window that just popped up, but you'll get a confirmation window that says success, create a database user, and assign the user to the database. And you click OK on it, and you'll see it fill in that information for the database. The only two pieces you need to drop in are the database server. I tend to prefer 127.0.0.1 instead of localhost, but localhost should work as well. And then enter a database prefix. That can be anything you want, and follow it by an underscore. And then you just click the next step. And again, you'll see that blue progress bar coming across the screen. Step 3 is another automatic restoring database through step 4. And then you're going to get to step 5, your site URL settings. That's where you verify that you're going from your old site
Now, before
over
we
to
go,
your new site. Make sure those URLs.
yeah, before we go past this screen right here, we had a question in the chat. This will be a great place to deal with that. It was from Tyroil. The question was, what if we're moving from a non SSL to a host that has SSL? And it's on the response I gave in the chat was, you want to load Import Buddy right there, just as you're looking at that URL. Load it under HTTPS, your domain dot whatever / importbuddy.php. When you get to this site settings, you'll notice the old URL doesn't have HTTPS and the new one does. So what this does at this point, Rebecca, what happens when you click next?
It's going to automatically change the database. It will overwrite all of the old URLs in the database. So if you're moving from a non-secure site over to SSL, it's going to automatically go ahead and update that everywhere in your database for you. You won't need any force SSL or anything like that. It will just be taken care of.
Yep. So at this point, when she clicks next, every single instance of the wp1.dev is going to be replaced with the new URL. So if you're moving from HTTP to HTTPS, this is going to take care of all the URL updates in the whole site.
And just that fast, it asks us to verify the site and finish before it does any sort of cleanup. I always just like to open that in a new tab. And you're going to see that load. I apologize for the bandwidth issues. Okay, here's the site on mywp.dev. And we're comparing it to the original on wp1.dev. You can see that it's an exact mirror. Everything is as it should be. So we are going to scroll down here. You have a chance to change your site search engine visibility. If you've been working on a private site, you've had your search engine visibility clamped down, you can go ahead and set that to public. So you would use this if you're moving a client site over to a forward-facing site for them. And in this case, we're going to leave it private because we're just working on these two sites for our webinar. And then we're going to let Import Buddy clean up behind itself. It's going to delete the backup zip archive, delete all of the import files, everything that it needed to use to do this move. It's going to clean those off of your server for security reasons. And again, you see the progress bar coming through.
And as we're waiting on that, there was a good question earlier about the location of the database. Eddie was asking, should you use the IP address that sometimes it's 127.0.0.1 or localhost?
It's been my experience that the IP address tends to work better across most hosts, but you can really use whichever you're comfortable with. If localhost won't work with your host, it will kick it back. BackupBuddy will let you know, and then you can enter 127.0.0.1.
Yeah, exactly. And those, by the way, are on most servers in standard configuration. 127.0.0.1 is the same thing as localhost. That's just the machine pointing at itself, usually. What you may want to do is just check with your host and see, how how the database connection is set up, and then just use that.
Exactly. All right, so you can see that we're finished. What we're going to do is go back over here into Cpanel, and we're going to reload that file manager just so you can see what's left. And now you see just your standard WordPress installation. There's no sign of importbuddy.php and no backup zip file, so it's cleaned up after itself nicely, and everything is good to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one very important thing is make sure, don't get to that point of Import Buddy where it gives you the site to preview, and then you forget to go back and clean up. You definitely want to clean up, because otherwise somebody could maybe just try the importbuddy.php file, and now they can go through and overwrite your whole site because you haven't cleaned up. The zip file is still out there. All the Import Buddy working files are still there. So make sure you go back and clean that up just for security reasons. If you do and just go ahead and follow the wizard all the way through, then Import Buddy totally cleans up after itself, just as you're looking at here.
Yes, that's why I always try to make a habit to open the site verified in a new tab, so that I remind myself to come back and clean up behind myself, because that housekeeping is super important for security.
Absolutely.
All right, now here's the fun part. Now that we have successfully moved this using importbuddy.php into zip file, we're going to wipe it all away and blow it all up and start over, because I want to show you guys one more way of moving it within the control panel file manager.
Yeah, and that actually points to a question that we had a little bit earlier. AJ was asking, what if there's a sample site at the destination before migration? And AJ, that's what I talked about in the answer I gave in the chat room is exactly what Rebecca's about to show here. Let's back up a step, Rebecca, if we could, before you delete everything. So let's just say you're in that situation where the place you want to restore, the BackupBuddy site from another location, that has a WordPress site on it, just like this. So what do? Simplest way is just like Rebecca's doing now. You go into the file manager of that cPanel and you click. Let's just start again there, Rebecca. Click select all, and let's talk them through what to do, how to blow off that WordPress install.
Okay, so you just make sure everything is selected, and then right click and delete. Just go ahead and skip the trash to permanently delete the files. Click confirm. And I'm not sure if you can see that window or not where it was popping up on Chrome, but now you are faced with an empty directory, and you're ready to start over with uploading import.php and your zip file. And that's your cue again, Nathan, if you don't mind.
Yes, that is my cue. Hang on one second here, folks. And I tell you, while I'm doing this, Rebecca, Chris had a question. Does it matter if the backup folder gets unzipped and then zipped again before you try to restore it?
No, that doesn't matter at all. What does matter is renaming it. Please don't rename the file. I learned that one the hard way, and that's something you really don't want to do. But no, you can, if you've accidentally unzipped it or you've got your computer set to unzip files as you download them, that's fine. Just go ahead and zip it back up, and then you're ready to roll with it again.
Okay, those files should be in place now.
Here's where I confess I'm jealous of your internet. Okay, so what we're going to do is the second step that we had looked at. And we're going to toggle through some of these slides. And if you haven't already grabbed the slides, go ahead and do that because it walks you through every step. And we're going to come here to manually extracting that file with Cpanel. So once you've got them loaded into your file manager, you'll see the importbuddy.php and the backup zip file. And the reason we say don't rename it, this is all kind of random hash that we add to the back end of the file name for security. So someone can't just poke around and guess that maybe you've got a backup and it follows a standard naming convention. You can see, though, we do include the word full in here. That's an important thing if you've taken database backups, theme backups. It just gives you one more chance to make sure that you've got the right backup to move through this migration with. So what we're going to do is right-click and extract that file. And it's going to go ahead and unzip everything for us. Now you can see that everything is there, including the backup zip. That's fine to leave it, but you've got all of the components of a standard WordPress installation there. Okay, so let's come here. Now we're going to just run that importbuddy.php again. And this is almost identical to the first process. The one difference is we're going to tell it to go ahead and skip the extraction of the files. You'll see this warning here. It's telling you that an existing WordPress installation is found. That's what you'll see if your client already has a sample site on the server or you've gone ahead and unzipped it. It's just letting you know, hey, there's something here. Double check before you overwrite it. So what we're going to do for this one is just click Advanced Options. And we're going to tell it to skip unzipping or opening the archive. And you can click the X to close or click anywhere off of that window. And then just click Restore Backup. And you'll see this time on step 2, it says that it skipped restoring files. And that's because those files are already there. We've already unzipped them on the server. And again, the same thing, just go ahead and run through that.
Now, while Rebecca's typing all that in, John had asked a great question on why would you choose one of these methods over another? And John, sometimes what we found in experience is that some web hosts make it difficult for ImportBuddy to unzip files, or there may be something on the host level that's making that complicated. So by unzipping it yourself, you eliminate that issue. And so the two-phase process of ImportBuddy is step 1, restoring the files out of the zip, unpacking the zip file. Step 2, migrating the database and making the URL changes. And so we can manually unzip the files to get rid of that step 1. And now we're just focusing on the database piece.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when I was reviewing this today before the webinar, I discovered that a server I was working on actually took about 30 minutes to complete that, trying to extract the file, which obviously is way less than ideal. So if you find yourself on a server where it seems to be taking a really long time, it's okay to just go ahead and blow that all away again in your cPanel. And that's when you'd want to move forward with this manual extraction. It'll just make it a lot faster for you. You can see it's what we've just done before. Oh, and here's a good chance to remind yourself that you need an underscore there. As much as I've done this, sometimes I still forget to do it. And so BackupBuddy's going to pop up that little database warning saying, hey, go put that underscore back. And then, just like we did before, it's restoring the database. And that restore was successful. And again, we're moving from wp1.dev to mywp.dev. And that'll scoot on over and ask us to verify it. So again, we're going to open that in a new tab. And there we see our site again. So it's there, everything looks right. So we go ahead and we finish the cleanup. As it's done cleaning up behind itself, we're going to blow this away one more time and move into our third way of migrating a site with BackupBuddy. And that's using built-in Stash, which is our cloud storage that is amazing for doing keeping backups securely stored off your site. When I first started using a backup plugin, I just thought, well, I'll keep everything, you want to keep everything together with your website. No, you don't. You really want to keep at least one backup off of your site, because if your server's compromised for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to access that backup, and then you'll be in another world of trouble. So I highly recommend using Stash for that. Stash storage with your BackupBuddy purchase, so that's enough to really get you rolling and utilize it, find out how handy it is for you. So I'm back in wp1.dev, which is that first site that we're migrating away from. And you'll see I'm still on the backup screen where we've gone ahead and taken a backup. I'm just going to come back over here, refresh the screen, and show you your list of backups that are stored locally on your server. What we're going to do is go ahead and send this over to Stash. Now, I've already got Stash set up. If I hadn't set up Stash, I would just click Add New Destination, and then it would let me do so. So we're going to shoot that over to Stash, and you'll get a notification that says your file has been scheduled to be sent. And if you want to verify that from within your WordPress dashboard, just go ahead and click on Remote Destinations. And it will show you everything that's sitting in your iThemes stash. And you can see we've just sent that full backup a minute ago. So we know it's sitting in Stash. We know we're good to go. So Nathan, if you wouldn't mind loading importbuddy.php into our file manager again.
I am ahead of you. We're ready to go.
Aha. And for this one, all you need to load, of course, is importbuddy.php, because that backup file is actually sitting in your theme stash. So we're going to come over here and run importbuddy.php again on our mywp.dev. And this time we're going to see a warning that says no backup buddy zip backup was found in this directory. And that's no problem because we're going to restore from stash. And you just want to connect with your iThemes username and your iThemes password. These are the same ones that you'll use if you're on members.ithemes.com or sync.ithemes.com. And just click connect to stash. And if you're not sure what you have sitting in stash, of course, you can go ahead and manage those files. And you'll see here on wp1.dev, we've got this full backup that we loaded 2 minutes ago. We'll go ahead and click restore. And that sends us back to step 1. It just shows us that it's restoring from that backup. We want to restore the files in the database because we're moving this whole site. So just click Restore Backup. And from there, it proceeds just like the other 2 methods, right into your database settings. And this time we'll see if I can remember the underscore. And we'll enter this in. And just go ahead and click Next Step. And it will walk right through, restoring that database. Our URLs again, wp1.dev to mywp.dev. And we'll verify that site. The site's there, comments, posts, archives, everything we need. So we'll go ahead and finish the cleanup and let it wipe everything Import Buddy related right off the server. And we'll take a look at what's still in our file manager. You can see your WordPress installations there. Everything Import Buddy is gone and you're ready to roll. So that is 3 ways that you can migrate from one domain to the other domain without having to dig into your database and get your hands all dirty and worry about messing up a table. Just let importbuddy.php and BackupBuddy do their magic.
It's amazing. Now, earlier, Cheesehead had a great question on, is there a reason to use Cpanel to transfer the files rather than FTP or Sftp? And the answer I gave in the chat, and I think it's worth repeating for the replay, is transferring, the zip file and the importbuddy.php file, or that's you could use the Sftp. Where you really want to use Cpanel is if you're trying to blow off an existing WordPress installation. That would take, a while, depending on how big that original site is. So that's always going to be quicker to do in the Cpanel file manager. So if you're uploading to just a raw open site, there's nothing there, there's no reason, there's no real advantage one or the other. But if you've got to delete stuff, you definitely want to use Cpanel.
Absolutely. And if you're going to try to manually extract that file, definitely Cpanel is the way to go.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so how's everybody doing with that? Any other questions related to it?
We have a few questions that are stacked up, but they're things we'll probably need to cover in the wrap up today. One thing I will mention, just as a pro tip from someone having been using BackupBuddy for quite a while, one of the places, it's part of my launch process, is I'm migrating from a development server over to the live site, is making sure to clear the cache as after you restore the site. Make sure you clear the cache, because it could be that some of those old cached URLs, if the URL is updated, you want to clear all that so that images are being pulled from the right location and so forth. And 2 locations I've found that have been, problem points are, if you're using a caching plugin and it was active on your development site, make sure you purge that cache. If you're using like W3 Total Cache or WP Rocket or something like that, clear that cache. Also, if you're using a page builder like Beaver Builder, Elementor, or Divi, those have their own caches as well. Make sure you clear those caches, because it could be that some of the old URLs are still being cached there, and they need to be refreshed in the cache with the new URL. Because they're cached files, BackupBuddy may not update the URLs in those locations, depending on the way those plugins store their files. So just be aware of that and make that part of your process to clear the cache.
That's a really good point. And another popular plugin is Wordfence. We've run into that one. Sometimes their user.ini files can be problematic. So I usually recommend people go ahead and deactivate that plugin prior to migrating the site. And then, of course, just go ahead and reactivate it if that's what you're using on your live site.
Okay, I think we can go ahead and step forward.
That is actually, those are our 3 steps. So,
oh, good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, so we've had several questions that have popped in. Ted is asking, first of all, does iThemes hosting have Cpanel? And Ted, no, iThemes hosting does not use Cpanel. It uses a completely different system using iThemes Sync to manage your website. So the support there will be able to help you pull a BackupBuddy file right there into iThemes hosting. Rod is asking, Rebecca, if we move from client site on our test server, we create a subdomain to install the WordPress site into. Would BackupBuddy be able to restore into that subdomain?
Yes, BackupBuddy will restore wherever you have the file loaded. So you've got that zip file, you've got importbuddy.php, and it doesn't care if it's a subdomain or a top-level domain, it'll handle restoring.
Absolutely. So that stage that we've shown a couple times today of migrating the website, and you're putting in the old URL and new URL, the new URL just has a subdomain. And so it just takes care of all of that find and replace in the database during that step. Let's see. Girl Who Can't Type and Steve had asked a question. So Steve was wondering about the HT access warning. You want to talk about that just for a minute? What do we do about that?
With the HT access warning, what it's basically letting you know is that you've got that HT access file already present in your backup, and it's warning you that it's going to overwrite anything that's present on the site that you're migrating to. Depending on if you have special rules or not in that HT access file, you can certainly exclude that from your backup if needed. But generally speaking, you're probably going to keep the same parameters, so it's okay to just proceed with that. If you're not sure what's in there, you can go ahead and look in your Cpanel to go ahead and show your dot files. Now, I'm not sure. Can you see that window?
Yes, that does show.
Where it's allowing us to show the hidden files? Perfect. So that's in settings in the control panel file manager. And we're just selecting to show the hidden dot files, you'll see the htaccess there. And you can just go ahead and check. You can compare the two editions to make sure that you're not overwriting anything important.
Absolutely. So generally speaking, though, it's not going to be a problem in general. I mean, this is one of those situations. I sound like an attorney, but it depends. But in general, the htaccess file is going to be overwritten with the one you're restoring, and the htaccess file usually pertains to that particular site that you're restoring. So it's usually safe to go ahead and overwrite that. So, there's certain cases where that might not be the truth, but, usually that's the case. Something else you may notice here, just to mention that since we're on the screen, is that .well-known file. Rebecca, what's that about?
That is, if you're using Let's Encrypt SSL, which is popular, I use it on a lot of my own sites. It's free. Who doesn't love free? That's where all that information about your SSL certificate sits. So you're going to want to not blow that away if you're cleaning off the installation to reload another file. Just make sure you don't, if you've selected everything, just go ahead and deselect that one before you wipe everything else away. And of course, in this case, if we want to leave htaccess, we can, or we can wipe it off and let it be overwritten.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't show unless you've gone into settings and turned on the show dot files setting. So the show dot files is off by default, and that way your htaccess and your well-known folder will not be shown by default. So if in this case, by default, see, they're not shown at all. But that's why you get that htaccess warning. BackupBuddy is simply saying, hey, there's an htaccess file. We're going to go ahead and overwrite that.
Yeah, BackupBuddy tries to give you as many chances as possible to make sure everything's exactly how you want it. Because a lot of times when you're migrating sites, especially for a client as part of your workflow, you're going to want to minimize downtime. If you're blowing away an old installation and putting up their new site, you're not going to want to have the traffic coming to their site, getting a maintenance or garbled site for any longer than possible. So BackupBuddy warns you as you step through it to make sure everything's just a few clicks and then you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you have questions, please ask those in the chat room, ithemes.com/chat. We have 4 in queue from Gene, Peter, Paul, and Kim. If you have a question that you have not yet asked, please do so. We'll do our best to get to it here. Gene wanted to know, is there any need to update a WP config file or the htaccess file after migration? No. Everything is handled within BackupBuddy, specifically to save you the hassle of having to deal with any of that. Absolutely. So, Gene, it's all handled automatically. It is wonderful. And so, when you on that step where you are entering the database connection information, BackupBuddy takes that information, the database name, the database server, the username, the password, all that, and it puts it into the WP config file for you. So you don't have to touch any of that. The only reason you'd want to do any updates to either the WP config or the htaccess is, if you specifically needed to change something else. But it's going to make both of those mirror copies of what was on the original site, and then it's going to update the database information for you in the WP config. Peter, he just made a note here, but I think it's worth commenting on. He said he previously had problems using ImportBuddy if the original website had a php.ini or a user.ini file. Any clarification on that, Rebecca? We touched on that briefly with Wordfence. There are some plugins that will generate those user.ini files. Generally speaking, it's safe to exclude those from your backup before you make them on the original site. If you're not sure about it, just drop a ticket to support and we'll be glad to take a look and make sure you're not excluding something you need for the backup to successfully migrate over to another site. Great. Paul wanted to know if you have any information on BackupBuddy and WordPress multi-site compatibility.
That BackupBuddy does work with multi-site. There are some features that aren't quite as fully fledged in it. But generally speaking, most people can successfully use it with multi-site. That kind of gets into server specifics, and some servers work better with it than others. But we do have people that successfully use it with multi-site.
Yeah, there you go. So specifically, if you have questions about that, just email or set up a support ticket, and Rebecca will help you out there. Multi-site is a large and unruly beast a lot of times, especially if it's not being hosted well. So, we do our best with BackupBuddy, but it is a complicated monster to work with sometimes. Let's see. This is a great question from Roger. So, is there a maximum size site that BackupBuddy can restore? Do you have any tips for moving very large sites?
Honestly, it's less to do with BackupBuddy limitations than it is your server limitations. I think the largest site that I have personally helped successfully migrate was almost 40 gigs, which is quite large. But as long as your server can run the backup to begin with, and then the server that you're moving it to can also handle that type of file size, then yeah, BackupBuddy can truck away with it.
Yeah, and there's lots of settings.
I will say that's where the manual extraction.
I'm sorry, I think I stepped on you there, Rebecca. What did you say there?
Oh, I was just going to say, with the file that size, like with the larger file, that's where that manual extraction ability comes in really handy.
Yes, because a lot of hosts, even on really high horsepower servers, they may tend to time out on restoring or unzipping that zip file, because that does take a while. And you'll know there's a lot of settings in the advanced settings area that support can help you find the right combination. But that's why they're there, is to account for all the different variables of backup size, hosting configuration. BackupBuddy has 9 years of experience dealing with all sorts of different hosts and configurations and so forth, and all those little settings are there. However, it's really good to get support's input before you go and change a lot of the default settings, and that's what they're there for. And Rebecca is obviously a really nice person to deal with, and she knows what she's doing, so she'll be happy to help you there. Okay, another question here.
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you write into support, sometimes we might ask you for temporary administrator access. And that's because we're going to want to take a look at this server tools page, get some information about the server you're on, and then make some recommendations on the best way to match back up to your particular server environment.
Absolutely. Okay. Couple of questions that have popped in, and Kim, I'm still going to get to your question about iTheme security. Gene would like to know, if I had malware found in step 5 under delete existing database, should I check off both delete the prefix or delete all? So if she wants to delete everything, what should she do?
Delete all to delete everything.
Right. Let's see here. Chris would like to know, if we're sending backups to a non-stash remote location like Amazon S3, is it the best course to download the zip folder and then upload via Cpanel, or is there a way to import directly from that third-party remote location like there is with Stash?
There's not a way to do that at this time. That is a great feature request, and we can certainly mention it to the developer team. But at this time, if you're using a third-party location, just go ahead and download that and then upload it through Cpanel.
Yeah, that's really the help of using Stash, is the quick access to your backup simply using your iThemes username and password. In order to enable a third-party remote destination, I mean, you'd have to log in again right there, and it's a little, it'd be a few steps. But we will mention that upstream. Okay, let's do this. Let me get to Kim's question because she asked this question earlier, and I think it's a good one. And Rebecca, you tell me if this is one you want to handle, or I can speak into it as well. She had a question. Some folks agreed. She uses iTheme Security Pro. Are there any settings she needs to be careful about before migrating a new site with BackupBuddy? What do I need to keep? What do I need to disable, etc.?
I'm going to let you speak to that one because, to be honest, I use iTheme Security, of course, but BackupBuddy is where my knowledge space is, so go for it.
Sure. So the real challenge, I think, Kim and everybody else that was questioning about this is, there's a lot of lockdown stuff that's going on in iTheme Security. Best practice: disable the plugin, take a backup, and restore the backup with the plugin disabled. Then once you get the site up and going, you can re-enable the plugin and then start tweaking any settings that need tweaking. If you don't want to fully disable the plugin, then make sure if you're using iTheme Security to force your HTTPS, and HTTPS, it does not exist on the new restored location, then you might get into an issue there. So that setting in particular, if you're restoring to a non SSL environment, then that's really one you want to look at. But you may just want to disable the plugin in general and then re-enable it on the other side. Now, that said, I've restored it live plenty of times with iTheme Security active, and there's been no problem whatsoever, particularly if the environment of the source site and the destination site are the same. So like if I'm just restoring a site from one domain on my server to another, I've never had problems with just leaving it active. But, if there's any question, just disable it, take a backup, restore it, then re-enable. Does that get your question, Kim? If not, just, ask some follow-up questions and we'll come back to that. Awesome. So LJ would like to know about relocating the site to a new hosting server. When would you point the domain name to the new server? That's a good question.
That is a good question, and you're going to want to go ahead and have that domain name pointed. Take your backup, make sure you've downloaded your backup or that you've sent it to Stash. Go ahead and change the DNS, and then as soon as that's propagated, go ahead and run through BackupBuddy to migrate the site.
Yeah, BackupBuddy's going to want to have that new domain in place so it can do the restore process. Let's see. Ted is asking, why does the server show both MySQL and MariaDB? They're almost the same thing. Ted, I'm not sure where we saw that. Actually, one may be one and one may be the other. The different sites. Honestly.
I've got server.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say I had it open to the server tools. This is what your server is running, whether it's running MySQL or MariaDB.
Yep. So it's going to show both of those.
So you'll see NA if it's not running.
Yep, exactly. So Ted, this is actually running on my server, and I'm using MariaDB as the default database server, and that's why. And by the way, that's a good move. If you have options to do Maria, it's going to be a little quicker. So if you can get your host to do that, if you're on Liquid Web, they will generally support that on all their VPS and dedicated servers. So get them to do that process. There is a bit of a process involved in that, but your support rep at Liquid Web or wherever could walk you through that. Tammy would like to know, any ideas on how to get support on a site when the site owner will not allow us to grant third-party, such as iThemes, permission to look at the server tools, etc.?
Definitely, we run into that. Obviously, asking someone to trust us with their admin credentials when we're not privy to their business can be a problem for some clients. So in that case, what we'll do, we'll ask you to send in screenshots of specific areas that we think might be a problem, and we'll work with you to make suggestions for things that can be changed. And we're willing to go back and forth with you as long as it takes to get it up and running. A lot of times it's faster if we can log in and tweak things ourselves. But if your client won't allow that to happen, then we'll work with you and still get you up and going.
Absolutely. Question from Peter, and this is the last one in the queue. So if you don't have your question answered yet, or you have one that's just popping into your mind, go ahead and drop that in the chat, because we're a few minutes over now. We'll wrap it up after this question unless another one comes in. Peter is asking, are there any known issues with my ISAM versus NODB database tables during the restore? And for those of you who aren't aware, those are two different database structures depending on, the different tables. Rebecca, any insight into issues with either of those kinds of tables?
None that I'm aware of. That's not an issue that I've encountered.
All right. Rod would like to know, to clarify, can we move a site from the client's old server to our test server and then to the client domain on the new server before we change the client domain name? Okay, Rod, I even got lost reading that question that just dropped in. Let me take another stab at it here. You want to move a site from an old server to your test server, and then after that to your new server before you change the domain name. So that goes into what we just talked about a minute ago. In order to run Import Buddy, you have to have the domain pointed at where it's going to be. Now, the quick answer to that question is you need to have the domain actually pointing at that new server. In the case where you don't want to have any downtime for whatever reason, you can, and this gets into something advanced that we're not going to cover in this webinar, but if you're advanced enough to understand how to edit your hosts file, you can, with your host file, point on your computer, your domain at that new server, and then run Import Buddy that way. But you just have to be aware, that's a complicated process and not one that we're going to support or show you how to do on this webinar. But I think that answers your question, Rod. Did we get that? Got it. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up today? You guys have been great. Lots of good questions. JJ would like to know, when will iThemes support on BackupBuddy and Security Pro be live call-in? Currently, support ticket is all we're supporting, JJ, and I'm not aware of any change to that. Rebecca, are you?
No, I am not. At this point, we find that the support ticket system allows us to answer tickets as efficiently as possible without the extra cost of that BackupBuddy would have to carry to have live call-in services.
Yeah, exactly. So JJ, no plans to do that currently. All right, folks, thanks again for hanging out with us for the last hour. Rebecca, any last words as we're wrapping up today?
No, just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. I've enjoyed it. Great questions that made me think. So keep them coming for the next webinar.
Absolutely. Now, by the way, we'll be having another webinar, as we mentioned earlier. That will be, is that tomorrow, Rebecca? We're doing the next webinar? I think it is tomorrow. Yeah.
It is tomorrow.
Restoring a website with BackupBuddy. So it's a little different than the move process. We're going to talk about some different things. Rebecca, tell us what we're going to cover tomorrow. And by the way, I've just dropped that link in the chat if you're not registered for that one. Sign up now. Rebecca, what are we going to cover tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll get into some of those more pinpoint backups. So you want to do a database restore, or you want to restore a theme that you were working on and you don't like it and you can't remember what you did, so you want to just pop that back in the state it was. So we'll get into some more of the granular things that BackupBuddy can handle. Awesome. So that's coming up tomorrow, 1 o'clock Central Time. It's a free webinar. Make sure you're registered for that. In the meantime, also, perhaps you've noticed over in the sidebar beside the chat, there's a 9th anniversary sale going on for BackupBuddy, 35% off of all BackupBuddy and BackupBuddy Stash plan. The coupon code is there. Save 35% off if you are a new customer of BackupBuddy. The replay link is also there in the chat. We'll have that video up in about an hour from now. So if you want to go back and look at the replay, you can do that as well. Once again, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing with us. It's been a really good hour of content here. Thank all of you for being with us as well. Hopefully it was a good investment of your time. Again, my name is Nathan Ingram, and for all of us here at iThemes,
We hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.